Now, we often associate classical music with Russia, most usually the works of the likes of Tchaikovsky or Rachmaninoff. But Polina Skovoroda is involved with a very different musical tradition from that country. She creates Yiddish and Gypsy music and used to conduct the Soviet Union's Yiddish choir. She told the World Today's Lawrence Pollard about growing up in Tatarstan and how her interest in Yiddish music started as a search for her Jewish identity.
You know, Russian people, Soviet people then, it was Soviet Union, had to write their ethnic background in their passports. In my old passport I had to write either Russian or Jewish. My parents are both Russian and Jewish.
Either Russian or Jewish? You couldn't be Russian Jewish?
No, I had to choose. It was a hard choice to make. Oh. And I wanted to write Jewish because it was exotic, but my parents said, no, don't write that, you'll have problems. Never experienced any anti-Semitism, but still, being Russian was more cool.
So what happened with the Jewish music then? You don't write Jewish on your passport, but you start getting into Jewish music.
I wanted to look for my background. My family and I didn't finish with Va, Ova, Ivanova, Sidorova. So what's that? It's because you're Jewish a bit. No, half. So what does that mean? And nobody knew what being Jewish meant.
Didn't your family play Jewish music, or
Not
is Jewish music in there?
No, you couldn't really play Jewish music openly very much.
16-year-old you, where did you start finding it?
I was a teenager when Soviet Union was kind of becoming Russia, and Soviet republics were falling apart, and all this huge change with Gorbachev and things, and Yeltsin. And we had changes. Every year was different. So when I was 16, the door opened to traditional cultures. And I was very lucky to live in Kazan, which is the capital city of Tatarstan, where the first klezmer group since Perestroika started to play their music.
But this must be like the permafrost, you know, after the Soviet era, all of a sudden you can start digging down.
Yes.
It thaws. So where do you find it?
The band that I joined eventually, they just learned it from records that they could get from Israel, from America. It was very poor. The repertoire was very poor. We knew Hava Nagila, a few more songs, all this pop stuff, pop Jewish stuff.
Now that's interesting. So it's Jewish European music, but in order to track it down, you have to get
Go
records
back to
from
America.
America and Israel.
Exactly. It wasn't encouraged, it was forgotten. So we studied from European and American teachers.
And then when you start,
us.
how did it go down?
Well, there were festivals and seminars, and we had people who taught us, you know, people from America. And they taught us klezmer, they taught us Yiddish, they taught us our culture. And I got lots of recordings, and I went home after these seminars. I listened and listened and listened.
Is there still an audience for it in Russia?
Yes, more and more.
And it doesn't have negative political overtones or ethnic
Not
overtones?
Not anymore. Yiddish music and klezmer music has become part of this big world culture.
What about Islamic music and Islamic culture from the Soviet Republic where you were? How did you come across that, and what sort of tradition does that give you?
When you listen to it, it's very close to all these Arabic places, like Turkish music and that. And I heard muezzin singing from the, what are they called, mosques.
The call to prayer.
So it was always in my ears. I never really studied that music, and I never learned it deeply. I never went into that music deeply, but I heard it being played everywhere all the time. I grew up amongst Tatars. And they kind of kept their culture, especially in their villages and smaller towns. And then when Jewish music was allowed to be performed openly, then the Tatar music was allowed to be. Suddenly all people went back to their roots and all these cultures started flourishing.
How interesting. And is there any similarity in the music at all? Would somebody hear similarities?
Well, when we talk about popular Jewish music, not really. When you go back to where some Jewish music came from, we can talk about Turkish influences, even some Indian ragas, Indian modes that are almost the same modes as some
really?
Jewish
And you can hear the similarities.
And you can hear these things. And all that Arabic stuff, modal stuff, it's all in the Jewish music and in Tatar music
Just
as well.
explain, by modal stuff you mean the way that the melody will...
certain modes that are not major and minor. So we have this da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It sounds oriental.
Straight away, it takes me straight there.
When you talk about it musicologically, the modes are different. A lot of Tatar music now is in pentatonics. Jewish music would go like different modes.
Because there's one little turn that you did in that which straight away just says, oh, that sounds like Jewish music. Yeah.
But I think the meaning is the same. Love and this warmth.
In a sense, sad songs or lullabies sound the same pretty much everywhere, don't they? Because what
certainly
they're aiming
in Europe,
for is the same.
In closer cultures, I think yes. But I don't think that music is abstract and universal, although that's a common belief that music is a universal language.
But you don't think that?
I don't think that, no.
В сером небе, низком небе самолеты носятся, носятся. Птица в клетке на свободу просится, просится, просится. Люди правила сочиняют и по жизни носятся, носятся. Бизнес, деньги пред друзьями не простого носятся, но я...
For example, the gamelan orchestra, they have their own language. They know which beat means what, but you need to know that musical language to understand what it actually expresses. Some of the old Jewish modes were attached to certain Jewish prayers. So you couldn't sing a fast and joyful song in a sad mode. So if you don't know this cultural background, you probably won't get all of it, the whole spectrum, but you'll still feel something.
You're listening to The World Today from the BBC.